Hello, my name is Keenan Hickman. I'm an English major and student interviewer for Apollon at Randolph College. Today, we're fortunate enough to interview novelist Heather Sharfeddin. I'm here with student interviewer Erin Vasta. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Erin Vasta, and I'm a class of 2015, and I'm declaring as a BFA in English with a creative writing focus.
All right, I'll start with the first question. Before becoming a novelist, I see that you had a wide range of jobs: a motel maid, a car hop, billing clerk.
Yep.
Can you talk about how patience was key back then and it still is key in your writing process?
Yeah, I think patience is key. I'm not sure that at the time I was feeling very patient. I thought actually that I wanted to be a visual artist, so I set out to be a painter first. And most of those jobs that I had, I was really struggling to be a visual artist. And it wasn't until I went to work in high tech that I decided that probably the better art for me was literature. And I switched over to writing novels, and it still took me probably 8 years before my first novel was published. So yeah, patience is important.
What do you think has been the most educational writing tool for you?
The most educational writing tool? Wow. I think just studying writers that you admire, studying their style, studying the way that they come at the plot, the way that they develop their story, and breaking it down and understanding it, doing a lot of story analysis.
Being a Westerner, what made you want to venture out to the East Coast to pursue your master's?
Well, actually, my mother is from upstate New York, so I spent some of my childhood vacationing in upstate New York and some of it in Florida, which is where my grandmother moved to when she was older. So I spent a fair amount on the East Coast traveling back and forth, and when I decided to get my master's, there was actually a really good program that was about 30 miles from my house, and I decided, it would be a good idea for me to expand my horizons a little bit, or broaden my perspective, and work with some writers that I didn't know, because I knew a lot of the local writers, and that's what took me to Vermont, and I'm really glad that I did it.
How do you know when a piece of yours is ready to be published?
Oh gosh, I don't. I send it to a couple of my friends who critique it, some of my writer friends, and they give me a sense about how finished it is. I never really feel like my work is finished, and I think that's true of most writers, is that you can always go back and tinker with it, and so finding that right balance is difficult. At some point, I just send it off to my agent or my editor, whomever I'm working most closely with, and ask them to take a look at it, and they'll usually tell me it needs more work, or no, it's okay to go forward. So.
Your first novel, Black Belly, or Sweetwater Burning.
Yeah.
Can you talk about why does that have two different names?
Yeah, it has two different names because it came out in hardcover with the title of Black Belly, and Bridgeworks Publishing put it out, and then Random House picked up the paperback rights to it, that and my second novel, and their marketing department didn't like the title and felt that it would be better if they changed it. They had originally asked me if they could change it, and I said no, because I really liked the first title, but they didn't really take my no very seriously, and they changed it anyway.
What have been your biggest obstacles as a writer?
Oh gosh, I think my biggest obstacle as a writer is that I don't have enough time. I have a full-time job, and I raised a child who's now 20. He's not a child anymore. So I think just trying to carve out the time to write, and I think it's true for anybody in anything that they do. If that's what you want to do, you find the time to do it. So.
You play a part in promoting and keeping the Western novel alive. How important is that to you?
Well, I would draw a real clear distinction between the Western novel and the contemporary Western novel, or contemporary Western literature. And it's an important distinction that I don't think very many people make, because when we think of Western, we think of, cowboys and Indians and horses and covered wagons, and having grown up in the West, it's still a very vibrant, changing, dynamic area that is dealing with all kinds of issues, from land use to wildlife conservation. We're involved in a lot of political things, and we drive cars just like everybody. we live very much the same lifestyle as people do on the East Coast, and there are writers who are writing about the experience of living in the West, in the modern West, and I think they're really important pieces of literature that sometimes get pigeonholed under Western because it's a Western states type of literature. So I would draw a real clear distinction, but given that, I am very proud to be part of the contemporary Western literature scene. I think it's important.
How often do you write, and why do you keep those habits?
I write as often as I can. It depends on what my lifestyle is at the time. When I traveled a lot for work, I wrote every day, and I wrote in airports, and I wrote in hotel rooms, anytime I could get a few minutes. I don't travel as much for my work now, and so typically what I do is I read during the week and I write on Saturday, and I'll write for the whole day on Saturday. But that will probably change, and I'll have to find a new pattern, and I will when that does.
You've written 4 novels, all situated in the Northwest. Have you ever considered writing a non-Western or a book that's not a novel, or a piece of writing that's not a novel?
Well, I do have a couple of short stories that are published, and a couple of poems. I do also write some essays. I'm an op-ed contributor for my local paper, and I do write some academic type papers occasionally when I can get them published. But I don't think I would ever really write nonfiction in the sense of writing a book about nonfiction, like a memoir or something. I think it's a really different art form, and I should never say never. It's not something that I'm interested in at the moment.
You sort of answered this a little bit, but do you find your inspiration for your pieces and or your specific characters in your everyday life?
Yeah, I think that what inspires me to write are the individual struggles of people. Sometimes when you get to know the people around you, they have really amazing challenges and struggles, and they somehow persevere and just get through and do what they need to do, and that's really inspiring to me. It's that average everyday person who isn't privileged and doesn't have a lot of tools to work through their challenges, who still prevails. I like that a lot.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.